Welcome everybody to a year of joy. I'm so excited for today's event, how to liberate yourself to find your joy. I might have just messed that up, but Curt will share with us all about that. Before I introduce to you our joy superpower expert today, I want to talk to you a little bit about the year of joy, which is created from the art and science of joy with the co-creators, Andrew Cannon and Deborah Hellman Schlesinger Hellman. And the Year of Joy is an online community and platform that shares 52 joy superpower experts. So really experts in different areas that help impact our joy. And their whole reason behind creating it was really about elevating the joy in our world. There's a lot of stuff happening in the world. And so what better way than to offer people tools and practices and resources to be able to impact and elevate it. So with that said, we offer beyond just the community, which is so much and so many resources in there. We do live events like this, and we got our Joy Superpower expert on freedom, Curt, here today with us. So let me read a little bit about Curt. So we can learn more about him. Curt Mercadante is a CEO of Advantage Informatics and founder of Freedom Rising Enterprises. Advantage Informatics provides publications, news organizations, and businesses with reliable, timely, affordable content. Freedom Rising Enterprises helps driven men cultivate lives of flow, fulfillment, and freedom. For 25 years, Curt has counseled small businesses, entrepreneurs, as well as some of the largest corporations and associations in the country. He's built 3 profitable businesses, including a 7-figure PR and ad agency. 5 years ago, Curt shut his agency at peak revenue to cultivate more freedom and fulfillment and to help driven men free themselves from the limiting beliefs and stress that block their joy, fulfillment, and freedom. Curt has trained, coached, and delivered keynotes and workshops to clients across the globe. Now, here we go with some certifications. He is a certified human behavior consultant, a certified belief clearing practitioner, a certified law of attraction practitioner, a certified Ho'oponopono practitioner, founder of the Freedom Media Network, and author of the best-selling book, 5 Pillars of the Freedom Lifestyle. Curt and his wife, Julie, currently live in Sedona, Arizona, with their 4 children, following a year of traveling through the United States on a freedom adventure. Please welcome our experts, Joy. Curt.
Hey, nickname me Joy. That's fine. That's great. I'll copyright that.
Awesome.
Make it my middle name.
Yeah, exactly. Like Curt Joy Mercadante. Obviously, it's just flowing here. So welcome. We're so excited to have you here today with us.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you. And gosh, Andrew had me on his podcast in 2000. What year is it? It's been like a time warp, right? 2 years ago, whatever that was, 2021. And then asked me, and I've seen the growth in this program, and it's been wonderful. And it's something that we need today, true joy. There's enough, as you said, stuff going on in the world. I think it's important to realize that when we say, oh, these are crazy times, these are unprecedented times, they're actually not. It's just the fact that we have social media, we have Zoom, we have things that enable us to know about things that happen on the other side of the globe within seconds. And, here in the United States, we say, oh my gosh, it's violence and people are at it, Read your history. People were beaten almost to death on the floor of Congress in the 1800s. But guess what? I didn't know about it on Facebook. I couldn't get angry about it. Things happen. Things have always happened. The world has always turned, been crazy. There's always been storms. There's always been tsunamis. There's already been war. There's always been tyrants. There's always been joy. And, remembering that. And one of the things that we're going to talk about today is joy. And true joy gives you that sense of freedom.
Yeah.
It's within. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So thank you.
I'm excited, Curt. And and that is really the hope with the Year of Joy, is to really highlight the joy. Like you said, we can highlight all of the things, but if we can highlight and spotlight joy and all of the good things and ways to impact it, then that will be our focus. So having you here today to be able to share how to do that is a joy for us. I want to let everyone know in the chat to please interact in the chat. Let us know where you are watching from, how you heard about it. Please feel free to talk to Curt along the way. We're going to have a Q&A at the end. This is all about you. So I've turned the co-host or the host over to you, and have a great session. I'll be here.
Thank you very much. Let me just share my screen here and slide and play from start. Cool. Can everyone see my screen? Awesome. Let me make sure I got the chat open. Great. Well, thank you everyone for joining us wherever in the world you're joining us from. I know Shari already asked some of you to do this, but if you could please, as we start, I'm going to keep going. Let me know where in the world you're joining us from today. It's always great to see, especially over the last few years when we were online and we were alone in our homes, seeing people from around the globe connect on places, whether it's here, LinkedIn, social media, et cetera, et cetera. So throw it in the chat. I may also have some questions in the chat. You know, when I'm on stage, I get people to raise their hand with questions. It's called analog agreement. It keeps you engaged, keeps you, in the flow here and in the mix. So I may do that as we go here as well. So I want to really thank you for joining today. You know, there was a question I put in the Year of Joy forum during my week of joy last month, and it was about freedom and what freedom means to you. And it's a question I ask frequently. It's a question. I had a podcast, the Freedom Media Network, for several years, and for a while it was the one question, the first question I asked every guest. And when we think about freedom, it's easy to think about things that are outside of us, external. And I want to, as I say this, a lot of people, and I've caught flack on this, say, well, you just sound like a privileged person saying this. Okay, well, freedom is nothing outside of you. Freedom is nothing outside of you. I posted this on LinkedIn and someone said, well, that just sounds like a privilege, the voice of privilege saying that. And I referred him to the writings of Nelson Mandela, who was in Robben Island for almost 3 decades and said he never lost his sense of freedom, even sitting in a prison on an island. Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning, wrote that even in the middle of a concentration camp, he did not lose his sense of freedom because those two men knew, and they discovered that true freedom is within. No matter what people do on the outside, they can't take your freedom. Why? Because freedom is your birthright. Freedom is your natural state. Freedom isn't given to you by any politician. Freedom isn't given you by any one person, and no one else can take it away. When you go through your day and someone triggers you, you're giving away your freedom. They're not taking it from you. And so what I'd like you to think about today is that true freedom isn't about going out and getting it. True freedom isn't about building new habits and going out and doing certain things and getting more stuff and getting more money. I'm not saying any of those things are bad, but true freedom is unshakable. Realizing true freedom isn't about addition. It's not about adding stuff. You know, we live in a hustle and grind culture where it's all about add more stuff, get more stuff. I'm not just talking about money. I'm not just talking about material goods. I'm talking about just you're 1 podcast away from freedom. You're 3 books away from freedom. You're 4 Tony Robbins webinars away from freedom. I've written books. I've had podcasts. Those aren't bad things. But you can do all the external stuff. If in here isn't right, then you will never truly be free. If your freedom is dependent on anything outside of you, you will not truly be free. And it's interesting, and I share a statistic, not because I want you to feel bad for this demographic of people, but I share the statistic, and some people are shocked by it sometimes. You talk about the need for joy in our society. You know, in the news, we see suicides when they happen to either very young people or celebrities. Tragic. It's all tragic. But people are shocked when I share the news. Now, it's probably changed over the last 3 years. 7 out of 10 suicides in this country, 70% of suicides are men 45 to 54. They're actually white men. Now, I don't bring that up because I want anyone to feel sorry for them, but these are the privileged people. They have the house, they have the picket fence, they have the nice car, and yet they have so little joy in their lives that they take a permanent solution. You see, it doesn't matter how much, quote, privilege you have, and it doesn't matter how much money you have, because all of that is external. If you don't have true freedom within, I'll give you $1 billion tomorrow, and you will still be miserable tomorrow. I often ask people, what's the difference between anxiety when you have a lot of money and anxiety when you don't? And some people will say, well, when you have money, you can just make that anxiety go away. Wrong. Anxiety is anxiety. Anxiety is within. I was making over $1 million a year. And I remember one time when my wife came in and the lights were off and I was on the edge of my bed rocking back and forth and I told her to get the kids out of the house. All that money in the world didn't make a difference. There's a study, I can't remember who does it. I think it's Harvard. It's like the happiness quotient or the happiness index about the level of income at which above that income, the happiness quotient doesn't make a difference, meaning any more money than that, and you're not any happier than at that number. And it's like $80,000 a year. And you look at some folks who don't have a pot to pee in, and they are full of abundant joy. And then there's people with a ton of money, and they're miserable. They're miserable. They're discontented. So true freedom comes from within. Now, certainly you can say somebody's taking my liberties away. Certain things are happening. You can look at laws. None of that is bad. 2,500 years ago, there was a fellow named Lao Tzu in China. Wrote a book, a timeless book, called the Tao Te Ching. Now, Lao Tzu lived during a time, I mentioned before, the world's always had wars. The world's always been a little bit crazy. And we think today is, wow, it's so violent. All this is going on. And we forget about the last 100 years, the world wars we had. And most people haven't heard of the 450-year period called the Warring States period in China. It was at that point that Lao Tzu was a bureaucrat. He was working for politicians, and he had enough. He said, I'm getting out of town. On his way out of town, the guard at the edge said, can you just write down your wisdom, as the story goes? And he wrote down the wisdom of the Tao Te Ching, and he went and lived in the mountains. The Warring States period makes what's going on today in any war look like a child's playground. It was brutal. Over 4 centuries of wars, decapitations, tyranny, despotism. And in that time, Lao Tzu wrote about the fact, and if you read the Bible, if you read the gospel, if you read the teachings of Buddha, Hinduism, they all agree on one thing, and that thing is power of silence and going within to find your true freedom. So what we're going to talk today is something that I've created called the Freedom and Flow Framework. When I say I created it, I created it in that I put it together in some slides, right? Everything that you see today is built upon other things. I used to be a Gallup Strengths Finder coach. And now, as Shari mentioned, I'm a DISC, I'm a human behavior consultant using DISC. And if you look back at ancient traditional Chinese medicine, for instance, and you look at the 5 elements theory, it's all the same thing. It's just that somebody took ancient wisdom, copyrighted it, and made money off it, right? So the Freedom and Flow framework builds upon that. If I can change my slide. Now, I'd love you to, if you can, someone can put in the chat, what do we see on the screen right now? What is that on the screen? The yin yang, the yin yang. Can anyone tell me what it represents? Balance. Yes. Anyone else? Energy. All of those things. Yes, absolutely. A lot of times when I ask what it means, people say, well, it means order or chaos. Ah, Shari, opposites, light and dark. And that's what I hear a lot, opposites. But the yin yang, M said balance. Think of it like a battery. On either side of the battery, there's a plus and a minus. There's positive and there's negative. They're not opposites. They're polarities. The white and the black are actually polarities. They're not opposites. It's the light and the dark. It's order, chaos. It could be joy and discontent. Can be hot and cold cognition. You name it. Can apply to just about everything. But they are not opposites. And here's why. When we talk about world events and you talk about light and dark, you can talk about good and evil. Guess what? Each and every one of us on this webinar right now has the capability within us to be Adolf Hitler. Why? We are all the light and we are all the dark. Each and every one of us has both within us. Each of us has joy and we have discontent. Now, the little dots you see within, if you're in the black, right, that's when you're in a state of what we call rest and digest. That's when you sit and you sleep and you rest and digest. Now, in our society, we see that as lazy. In ancient wisdom, the rest and digest is when it all happens. That's when your brain repairs itself. That's when your organs have time to regenerate, right? We like to wear ourselves down. We like to hustle and grind. The white is the yang, right? The white is go, go, go. That's energy, right? Kick butt and go, go, go. But you'll notice in each, first of all, they together, it's harmony, it's balance. You need both in your life. If you have too much yin, you're not going to get anything done. If you have too much yang, you get burned out. Now, the dots in either side, by the way, shows that even when you're in a state of yin, you know, Taoist monks, the sages, were not pacifists. They would be sitting there and meditating. You see that white little dot? They had just enough being stored in the battery that if you tried to sneak up on them, 10 guys tried to sneak up on a Taoist monk in the old days, he would pop out of meditation, destroy the 10, and be back into meditation before you could whistle Dixie. Right? So even when you're in the yang, you have that yang, that yin within you so you don't get totally burned out. When you're in the yin, you're ready for action. You can turn it on and off. I actually do an experiment or an activity with some of my clients where I train them to do this. And how do we do that? I actually have them go into the bathroom, a closed door, and close the door. And they put their hand on the light. Here's an activity you can try. And when you turn the light off, put your tip of your tongue on the top of your palate, which enables your vagus nerve and it relaxes you. You breathe through your belly, you breathe through your nose, and you turn the light off and you exhale and you're relaxed. Your eyes are closed. But as soon as you flip that light, you take a deep breath and your eyes are open, but then you turn it off again. It trains you to be able to turn it on and off, because in our society, we are told and we are conditioned and we are programmed to be on and on and on and on. And we wake up with an alarm clock, a shot of adrenaline in the morning, and then we go till night and we don't stop. I have had clients who will not stop in the middle of the day. They work from home and they feel guilty about going in the other room to have lunch with their spouse, stopping to read a book, going for a walk, going to the bathroom. We can't turn it off. And so we train them. It's just like getting in reps. Turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off. You don't want to be so yin that you're lazy and a bump on a log, but you don't want to be so young that you don't burn out. You don't want to be so young that you get like me, where you are so burnt out that you don't know if you want to live another day. And that's what we see in our society. Go on LinkedIn. You see hustle, grind, get up, constantly advance. It's an old Chinese saying. It's better to retreat a foot than to advance an inch. Why? We constantly want to advance till we're off the cliff. We don't see anything in front of us. It's frantic. That's our society. Email, text, notifications, alarm clocks, you name it. That's not balance. That's not harmony. So that's what the yin yang is about. So why do I bring that up? Because the yin yang is at the center of the freedom and flow framework. The yin yang is here. That's where you have to start. That's when you're on firm footing. Everything else we're going to talk about won't matter. And that's why in the Freedom Forum, or in the Joy Forum last month, I said the number one most important thing you can do in your day. I've had people work with me for years, and I said, listen, get rid of everything else and do this one activity, and you'll get your money's worth. And yet, it was the number one most challenging thing that I ever asked my clients to do. Get up in the morning without an alarm clock and sit in silence for 5 minutes. Not in silence, not prayer, not affirmations, not going through your day. Absolute silence. Fasting your mind. Why? Because we wake up, it's easy to wake up and think, what do I got to do today? What's on my to-do list? What are those emails I have to do? What's that report I have to do? What's the call I got to get on? And so you start in the white and it goes through the end of your day, because you come home from work, then you throw on the TV, and then it's, oh my gosh, I'm watching the news. Get up in the morning and sit in silence for 5 days. For 5 days, that'd be great. Sit in silence for 5 minutes. I have folks who can't do this 2 days in a row. They just can't. It gets so frantic. It stresses them the heck out. I had one client who did it, and he was stressed for 2 weeks, but he kept doing it, and it got easier and easier. And getting up to sit, there's some times in the morning when I get up, by the way, don't talk to anyone. Don't have your coffee. I tell people, go pee and sit. That's it. And don't tell yourself you have to do anything. Don't tell yourself you have to be enlightened. You have to levitate. Just sit. Just sit. That's it. And what I notice on the days where I don't feel like sitting, I just sit. And I have a fan going above me right now. My friend Jason Gregory, wonderful book, by the way. There, you can't see it. Effortless Living. I'll share the link. You can't see it. It's blurred out. Maybe if I put it there. He compares it to a fan. Now, my fan's going pretty fast. If I pull the string and turn it off, that fan's going to keep turning for a while. You just got to let it turn until it slows down. So that's what you do when you sit. You just let that fan slow down till everything blacks out. Don't you black out, but the thoughts fade away. And sometimes when you get into it, the 5 minutes turns into 45 minutes and you didn't even know what happened. So this client I had, this was earlier this year, about 2 weeks into it, it was a Friday, I remember. So maybe it was about 10 days into it. He sat there and he heard a voice for the first time in his life. He was a very religious person, but he's begun to learn about actual spirituality. And he heard a voice saying, "Did I impress you, Dad?" Now, where did that come from? And he said, was that my subconscious or the Holy Spirit? I said, well, what's the difference? It's talking through you and coming up through you. And so through that sitting, he learned the true power of going within, the true power of joy, the true power of freedom. It has nothing to do with anything outside of you. And over the past 3 years, the people who fully got through everything were the people who tuned out, turned off the noise, and went inside. You don't have to go and live in a cave. If you are truly free, you're the eye of the storm. Things go on around you and you just smile and laugh. I'm not saying that's easy, but that's true freedom. Viktor Frankl in a concentration camp did not lose his freedom. Nelson Mandela in Robben Island did not lose his freedom. If they can do it, I don't think anyone's ever accused them of being privileged. You can do it as well. And so that brings us to, something just fell here, the freedom and flow framework. It starts within. It starts with that firm footing. But from there, we have our beliefs. Now, the yin yang is the foundation. The beliefs are right above that. And this shocks a lot of people because what they've been told, what they believe, is that your beliefs come through your thoughts. We hear a lot about mindset. And out in the world, when we hear about mindset, people discuss it in the realm of thoughts and actions, thoughts and actions, thoughts and actions, positive thoughts, affirmations. I'm wonderful, I'm wonderful, I'm wonderful, I'm wonderful. And if you say that enough, you are. I'm not saying affirmations are bad. I recommend them highly. We'll get that into those in a second. But your beliefs are the foundations. Trying to fix it all, or trying to fix your beliefs by just focusing on your thoughts and actions is like trying to fix a cracked foundation in your home by fixing the shutters of the roof. You got to go to the source. You start with that balance inside. You focus on your beliefs. Your beliefs fuel your thoughts. You ever wonder why some people are so negative? The negative thoughts they have? It's rooted in belief. I have relatives who we like to watch Shark Tank. We homeschool our kids, and Shark Tank, you learn math, you learn creativity, you learn business, etc., right? There's good lessons, bad lessons. We have a relative who we turn on Shark Tank, and immediately she says, "Those fat cats, don't they have enough?" Before she even thinks about it, or so it seems. You see, she has beliefs that go deep. Maybe those beliefs were her parents arguing about money. You see, we're all programmed. It starts at age 1 through 7, we're in what's called the theta state. We are the most programmable. Throughout our lives, we're programmed, but sometimes if you're watching Shark Tank and you say, "Those fat cats, they have enough money," it's likely because you were programmed with that belief when you were young. Maybe you heard your parents repeat that. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. Money is bad. Money is the root of all evil, which is not what was actually said in the Bible. The love of money is the root of all evil. But your beliefs fuel your thoughts. And if you ever wonder, why do I have these thoughts? Go to the foundation. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Your thoughts fuel your actions. I have a thought, I act on it. That's pretty simple. Your actions fuel your results. So a lot of people say, just take action. You want better results? Just take action. And then you wonder why you still get the crappy results you've always gotten, because you haven't gone to the root. You haven't cleared and cleaned and changed and encountered and confronted your beliefs. So if you have limiting beliefs, you're going to have limiting thoughts. If you have limiting thoughts, you're going to have limiting actions. Then you're going to get those results. And notice, it's a big circle. It just repeats itself. Now, one little piece that's in there that's important is your emotions. A lot of people think your emotions fuel your thoughts. It happens immediately. It's actually not the case. Your emotions happen as soon as you have a thought. If you have the beliefs that money is bad and fat cats just blah, 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 and I'm not saying all rich people are great by any means, but if you just reflexively see money, rich person, bad, ugh, there's a belief that fueled that thought, and immediately you get anger. Then what are your actions after that? You're going to be good at making money? You think you're going to be good at earning money? If you have a bad relationship with another person, you think that's going to be a good marriage? You have a bad relationship with money, you think that's going to be a good marriage? Your beliefs fuel your thoughts, which fuel your emotions, which cause those actions and then your results. This is true of sports. It's true of relationships. It's true of business. It's true of prosperity. It's true of making money. It's true of anything. If I have a belief that I have no chance of winning this race, I'm going to have a thought, and then I'm going to have emotion, and I feel sick to my stomach before the race starts. How do you think I'm going to perform in that race? Not very well. Not very well. And so when we hear mindset and we thoughts, action, just get up, kick butt. That's not a good way to get in a state of flow. Why? Because you wake up and you think life is a fight. You think life is a war. That's not flow. That's not a state of flow. Flow isn't necessarily a life of ease. It's just following the path of least resistance. Are you joyful if you're grinding through your day all the time? If you're trying to do a round peg in a square hole by just taking actions that aren't in alignment with your beliefs, you're just going through your day fighting. Fighting ain't flow. Fighting is force. That ain't flow. What do I mean by that? Imagine that you're water in a mountain stream. Water flows downhill, not because it wakes up in the morning and says, I got to kick ass today. It just does. And water is incredibly powerful. Have you ever been in a flood? You ever tried to stop water? You ever been in a hurricane? Seen the power of water? We have massive monsoons. We're in the middle of the desert here in Sedona, Arizona. And when the monsoons come through, you ain't stopping that water. And yet that water isn't fighting. The water doesn't wake up and say, I'm going to go get Curt today, right? It's flowing. So I'd like you to think about yourself as water in a mountain stream, and you're flowing downhill. Life has challenges. Think of those challenges as boulders coming from the mountainside. It goes into the water ahead of you. If you follow what we see in our society today, the hustle and grind, I call them the hustle and grind pornographers. What they would have you do is, listen, you got to prove it to those rocks. You got to swim up to those rocks and you got to punch them. You got to headbutt them. You got to push them. And so you do it and you do it and you do it some more, and your fists are bloody and you're sweaty. You say, I can't do it anymore. And the hustle and grind pornographer says, you can do it. You're weak. Pay me more money and I'll toughen you up. See how that works? And so people do that. And if they don't do that, they feel guilty. There's something on social media I like to call struggle porn. It doesn't mean that your struggle isn't important, but there's a point at which struggle becomes a competition, and people realize that the more you post about struggle and glorify the struggle, the more likes and shares you get. You don't have to struggle. And so here's what I would rather do. Water finds a way. I'd rather flow to the right or the left or over those boulders, or I'd rather have the water hit the boulder over time. We hike a lot here, and you see these massive rocks that were shaped by the water. We're told, be the rock. Guess what? The rock ain't got nothing on the water. So I'm going to flow right by those rocks, and guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to smile and I'm going to wave at the hustle and grind pornographers who are beating the crap out of themselves because they think they have to. That's freedom. That's flow. But if you have a fundamental belief that I have to fight, then you're going to have thoughts that say, I'm weak if I don't fight. Then you're going to have emotions say, fight. Then you're going to spend your day fighting, and then you're going to get the results that you've always gotten. Strong center, balance. Go deep with your beliefs. They're going to fuel better thoughts and emotions that are going to fuel better actions that are going to get you better results. Okay, that's all great, Curt. But how do I do that? Well, I'm going to embarrass myself here and change slides and show you how to do that here. And there's a term that Shari mentioned in my intro called Ho'oponopono. Ho'oponopono is the most powerful belief, clearing, anxiety, reducing, energy moving practice I have ever done with my clients. And I've taught a bunch of things, including emotional freedom technique, there's wonderful things. Ho'oponopono is so simple. You can do it sitting on a plane. You can do it sitting on the floor. You do it going for a walk. You can do it anywhere. You can do it, and I use it when other people are talking to me. People who would otherwise annoy the hell out of me. I use Ho'oponopono. So what is, sorry. What does Ho'oponopono mean? Well, Ho'oponopono is an ancient Hawaiian word that means to make things right. To make things right. Now, in our society, I think there was a show on A&E or something for a while called Intervention, and it was all about we have intervention, and I've had a lot of addicts in my family. And you do this intervention, and we're going to fix your problems. Yeah, that's what we do in our society, right? Well, so-and-so has a problem. I got to go fix their problem. And in doing so, many times you make the problem worse, or that person resents you trying to fix it. A lot of times those interventions on TV turned into the person just hating them, right? It's force. You're trying to force someone to do something. Ho'oponopono is based within. You notice a common theme here. Within. So Ho'oponopono means to make things right, not by fixing other people. So Ho'oponopono came into more popularity outside of Hawaii and in our society, thanks to two men, Dr. Hulen and Dr. Joe Vitale. Joe Vitale taught me Ho'oponopono. He's been on my podcast several times. Now, Dr. Joe heard about a doctor, an eccentric doctor in Hawaii who had cured an entire ward of very violent psychiatric patients at the Hawaii State Hospital. Okay, what's so eccentric about that? Who cares? Well, as the story went, Dr. Len had cured the entire ward without ever visiting or spending time with a single patient. So Dr. Joe said, I got to learn about this. So he went to Hawaii, he met Dr. Hulen, turned into a friendship. Zero Limits, there was a follow-up book called Beyond Zero Limits. It's a wonderful book in which they detailed the power of Ho'oponopono. You see, in the old days, when somebody had a problem, they would get the village together and people would come forth with their issues. Maybe they were ill, maybe they were sick, maybe they had a problem with someone else in the village. But instead of saying, let's fix your problem, you don't feel well, you got to take some drugs, you got to take some medicine, let's fix it. You got a problem with them, all right, let's hash it out. You guys got to fight, whatever it is, we're going to fix it. Everyone in the village went within and they said, we're going to fix whatever is inside us that is affecting this person with the problem. You see, we are all energy. I know we like to identify as everything now. The danger with that is you're identifying with something external. I don't care what that identity is. I'm a patriot. I'm an American. I'm a Texan. Whatever it is. Doesn't matter. That's not you. People ask me, what are you? I said, I'm consciousness wearing a meat suit. We're all energy at the atomic level. You look at the chair next to you, go at the atomic level. It looks the same as you. It's just vibrating at a different rate. We're all energy. And when we interact with other people, there is a sharing of energy. You ever sit across the table from someone and say, I got a bad vibe from that person? It's the same thing. We're all sharing energy right now. Some of you may get really crappy energy. It's just natural. You ever wake up in the morning? Maybe there's someone else in your house, and without ever talking to them, you know that they're having a bad day. There's a sharing of energy, and we're all connected. And so when you're sick inside, you make it more likely that the people around you are going to be sick. There's actually something called emotional contagion. They have studied this. That depression is actually a contagion of people around you, just like a sickness. Now it spreads faster with Facebook and Twitter, et cetera, and panic and fear and anger. But we share energy. And so Ho'oponopono is built on the fact that Shari comes to me with a problem. Judith comes to me with a problem. My first instinct is in our society, well, I got to fix them. What's wrong? How can I help you? What can I do to fix you? Ho'oponopono is built on, no. I'm going to take 100% responsibility. And I'm going to fix what's inside me because there's something inside me that is contributing to share Shari or Judith or M's issue right now. And so that's what Dr. Hu Len did. He actually read their charts. Some of them had horrific crimes. And he said, well, there's something inside of me that's causing this. How many of us are willing to take such 100% responsibility that the crap around us is our responsibility? When I'm in a bad mood, others are in a bad mood. When I feel angry, I'm making others angry. When I wake up in the day and I see, oh my gosh, there's a school shooting across the country, and my first instinct is someone ought to do something. Parents these days. What if instead of that, when you see something like that, when you see war, when you see famine, when you see violence, instead of saying someone else should do something, take 100% responsibility and say, I'm going to do something right now and go within. Because trust me, what happens inside of you is affecting me. What happens inside of you is affecting the people in your home, the people in your community, the people around the world. This is nothing new. The sages have been talking about this. Whether you're Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, Jewish, whatever it is, for thousands of years. That's what Ho'oponopono is all about. It's about taking 100% what? I already said the word. Please put it in the chat. Ho'oponopono is about taking 100% what? Responsibility. Imagine if everyone woke up and took 100% responsibility, because I'll tell you what, Judith mentioned the school shooting. How many people got up and said, violence today, parents suck, Congress sucks, whoever sucks, oh my gosh, whoever did the shooting is this, that, and the other thing. Somebody ought to do something. They get in a bad mood. Then they go home in a bad mood. And they're shitty, excuse my French, with their wife and their kids, or their husband and their kids. They're creating violence in their home. They're becoming part of the problem. What if each of us took 100% responsibility and stopped caring what other people do? And I don't mean not caring for other people. What I'm saying is, yes, ownership. I am responsibility for the world. I am responsible for the world. That's what Ho'opono is all about. Ho'oponopono, I think I missed a pono there, is all about. And it's so simple. It's 4 key phrases. I'm sorry. And it's not, I'm sorry, I grew up going to Catholic school. It's not the Catholic guilt. Oh, God, I'm so sorry. Forgive me. I'm so stupid. That's called shame and guilt. It's, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I did that. But you don't marinate in the BS. You don't marinate in the shame. You just say, I'm sorry for this. I'm sorry for what is ever causing this sore throat right now. I'm sorry for the beliefs that are causing me, whatever beliefs inside of me right now that are causing me to lack prosperity, I'm sorry. That's it. The second is, please forgive me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for whatever beliefs are causing anxiety right now. Please forgive me. When was the last time you forgave yourself instead of judging yourself? Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry for whatever beliefs right now are causing you to be anxious this morning. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry for whatever limiting thoughts right now are causing this tension and anxiety this morning. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And you just say it over and over again. Before you start, you can assess the strength of your anxiety, your tension, your anger. Maybe you had a call last night with your mom that triggered you and you wake up angry. Assess the strength of it. Be honest. You know what? Right now it's an 8 out of 10. Like, I am triggered. Then you can repeat aloud the 4 phrases. I do it in my head sometimes. I'm sorry for whatever caused me to be so triggered. Whatever belief is causing this emotion right now, please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Just repeat it over and over and over. Don't judge. Don't say, I'm so sorry. Don't judge yourself. Don't marinate in it. Don't feel shame. Repeat the 4 phrases over and over again and keep assessing the level. I did a workshop last year and I had a man who had crazy anxiety attacks. Crazy is a bad word, but that's the word he used. And he came the next day after learning Ho'oponopono, and he had an anxiety attack at night in the hotel where we were doing the event. It was an 8 out of 10. He could not get to sleep. His heart was beating out of his chest. He did Ho'oponopono till it got down to a 2 and then fell asleep. He didn't believe in any of this beforehand. He did it, and it worked. 4 simple phrases. By the way, love, forgiveness, gratitude. Is there a single spiritual tradition in the world in which those 3 principles are not part? Of course not. Who are you saying this to? Well, you're saying it to yourself. Well, shouldn't I say it to God? If you are of a spiritual tradition in which you believe you are created in the image and likeness of God, what's the difference? In fact, I would make the case that in every single spiritual tradition, what's the difference? Your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, and the higher conscious, they're all linked if you allow them to be. So here's a final tip. Now I want to open it up to questions. How do you know if you have a limiting belief or a limiting thought? Well, there's hours of tools I could tell you. Here's the easiest one. When you're having that silence in the morning, and a thought comes into your head and you're breathing slowly and you feel your breath get blocked. And when I say breathing, what I mean is you breathe through your belly, not in your chest. You breathe in your belly, you close your mouth, you put your tongue on the roof of your palate and you breathe slowly. So slowly inhale that you can't even see your shoulders moving. And then you breathe out. So slowly through your nose that you can barely see your body moving. There are times when you're going to feel a little bit of air panic. You're going to feel a little bit of blockage. Maybe it's as you're having a certain thought. The reason that blockage of breath happens is a trapped emotion fueled by a belief or a thought. Now, a very easy way is in the middle of the day, you're dealing with something and you have a thought, and all of a sudden you start having a panic attack. That's nothing outside of you. It's all within. It's balance, belief, thoughts, emotions that are triggering that panic attack. Some people say, well, just go and do a good workout. For some people, that is the worst possible thing you could do. Treat yang with more yang. Sit and listen. Sit in silence and listen for once to yourself. Listen, and your body, your being, your breath, your subconscious will tell you if there's an issue. And the best medicine you can take is sitting in silence, listening to yourself tell yourself, yeah, I have a belief here. I have an emotion. It will tell you through your heart rate. It'll tell you through numbness in your fingers. It will tell you through your breath. And then you take the other medicine, which is, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And just repeat that over and over again until you feel better. You're moving energy. You're clearing, cleaning, and dissolving the beliefs, the thoughts, the emotions that are creating the anxiety and keeping you from taking the actions to get the results you want. And as you go through that framework, which is the Freedom and Flow framework, you'll start to, just like water, realize once you dissolve the blockages, you start flowing. And when you flow, you feel that sense of joy and freedom. So with that, I thank you very much for allowing me to spend some time with you today. And I'd love to for you to put any more questions you have in the chat, or Shari, take it from here. I'll stop my share and you can take back over the webinar.
I can reclaim. Thank you so much, Curt. First, as Curt said, any questions or comments, anything, just share in the chat. I'll just say on a personal level, thank you.
Thank you.
So powerful. You touched on everything. You made us aware of how so much are in that hustle and grind without even knowing it. And I'll say that it wasn't until we all slowed down during those few years that I realized that I was literally on that, and my whole body took like this big exhale, and I was like, whoa, I was trapped on that. It was my first time that the awareness that I was on that.
Yeah.
And so just you bringing the awareness to us was so powerful. And also the Ho'oponopono, I know a little bit about. I loved the way that you expressed that and you shared that. And this responsibility changes everything for all of us. So it was just, I can go on and on, but it was just, I just wanted
Thank
to say,
you.
know how powerful it was. I do have well, let me see if there's questions before I have a question. M says, this was really amazing. I'm so glad to have been here today.
Thank you, Em. I'm glad you were here.
I'm glad you guys were here. And for anyone that's here, that's watching the replay, please connect with Curt. Well, first, how can people connect with you?
Yeah, probably the best way is I'm on LinkedIn, Curt Mercadante. Look up my name. Instagram, you probably know where I am on Instagram. I'm Curt.Mercadante, I believe, on Instagram. I've had several iterations and phases on Instagram over the years. Curt, C-U-R-T .Mercadante, Instagram, and I go in phases, posting regularly, not so regularly, and those are the best places to find me. Yeah.
Awesome. Judith says it's been so enlightening for me, and I really enjoyed Mr. Curt. You are
Thank
awesome.
you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So if I might ask a question, because I've heard, so I resonate with the whole beliefs, all of that. The only part that I've heard a little transposed, and I'm just curious your thoughts around it, was after the beliefs, emotions being before thoughts, because I've heard people say that because of your beliefs, your emotions are fixed within your body. And so they send a signal, and then you create a thought around that. That makes sense? That emotion.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So all of it becomes trapped, especially over time. I like to call it calcification. You know, whether it's beliefs, thoughts, emotions. And this is where affirmations can come in, where you've cleared the beliefs, but now you just keep having bad thoughts. You just keep saying things. I'm not worthy, or, oh, I might be stupid for asking this question, but, you say these things, you reinforce it, you reinforce the emotions. I think this is me, and I'm glad you brought this up because it's something I forgot to say during it. Well, I don't know if anyone here has ever lived in a cold climate, but I grew up in the Chicago area, and you'd put your snowblower away in the fall, and then in the winter, it just kind of sat there. And then when it got warmer, you'd go out or lawnmower, at the end, or that's what I mean, lawnmower, not the snowblower. The lawnmower, you take it out, and after the winter, trying to start it, oh my gosh. But once you start it, it's going. So the freedom of flow framework is a circle. And here's what I believe. You clear the beliefs, but the root is all the beliefs. I believe that the thoughts have the emotions. And you think about this, right? Let's say you see an attractive person. You have an emotion right afterwards. The emotion doesn't come, and the emotion fuels a chemical reaction that you have, right? If you see a picture on a screen, you have a thought, and then you're like, oh, I'm so sad. So I think it happens so quickly, but I also think that once it happens, it goes and it goes. And so let's say you clear the beliefs, but you speak badly of yourself, and then you're creating emotions. It just starts, and then all of a sudden you reinforce that and you get bad results, and then it creates new bad beliefs. It's a constant process. So, Yeah,
I was just curious because I've heard, because I think the most important thing of that, what I took from that, is that it starts with the beliefs and that foundational, because most people, like you said, try to start with the thoughts. So I was just curious about that, because I hear about all that stored trauma in your body, or stored this, and then So.
The root is a lot of, I clear trapped emotions probably more than anything else, more than beliefs. But I think the emotions are trapped because I've reinforced them with beliefs and thoughts for so long that it's just like hammered into me, you know?
Yeah, totally. Let's see, I don't know. It says, I don't know. Okay, why am I saying I don't know? Just read it, Shari. M says, I was prescribed an antidepressant 6 or 7 years ago for anxiety, but since pandemic decreased a lot of my sources of anxiety, I found that the medication was harming more than helping. I went off them in January, February, and feel like my brain is waking up a lot lately. And so your message really struck me. I guess if I have a question, it would be, how can you help yourself have more of the yang if, like me, you're kind of always just sort of chilling, but want to do more, but not cause stress over it? My strategy has been to make doing things more fun than not doing them.
Yeah, I think making things doing more fun. I think that the very phrase have more of the yang, like me, you're kind of always just sort of chilling, but want to do more, but not cause stress over it. There's something in there that's a belief. And so you're repeating that. Now it's turning into a thought, which turns into an emotion. So what I would do is I would try to meditate, do Ho'oponopono on that. I'm sorry for whatever is causing me to feel like I have too much yin and not enough yang. Or just say, I'm sorry for whatever is causing me to be out of yin yang balance. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And just do it that way. You know, a lot of the things that we say, and I've done this, I have a mentor and I'll say it and he's like, well, why are you saying that? That's a belief. I'm like, oh gosh, you're right. You know,
well, and you spoke right to her.
And I will say, you know, there are people who get mad at me, but you know, the amount of times I hear that I was on something and I went off it and I had an awakening, not just antidepressants, cholesterol drugs, other things. There's so much of it happening, so many chemicals that we don't know how they interact and can numb us to the true beliefs, thoughts, and emotions that we're meant to have. And so true courage, I believe, this is really aimed at men more than women. Women suffer depression more than men when I go to that statistic about suicide, but men just don't get help because they feel weak. Men will share things saying, F your feelings, your emotion. Men don't emotions. And so they're not dealing with it. They're masking it. True courage is confronting it, is looking at it, not fighting it, but looking it in the eye and saying, all right, I'm having this. I'm going to deal with it. Ho'oponopono is a great way to do that. I'm not telling anyone go off your drugs, anything like that. But I think I hear that a lot. I went off it and now I feel like all of a sudden I'm awake.
Yeah, I love it, Curt. Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom and your heart and helping us honestly to go within and to remember that peace and joy and freedom lives within and allowing ourselves to be free. We are so happy to have you as part of the Year of Joy community.
Thank you.
And for those of you who are joining us today, if you haven't joined the Year of Joy, I put the link in the comments. We would love to have you there. Curt, thank you for you.
Thank you, Shari, and thank you for you, and thank you for allowing me to be part of this. Thanks everyone for being here.
Thank you all for your time today, and we look forward to seeing you in the Year of Joy community. And this recording will go out soon, so you'll be able to watch the replay of it. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.